Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AAA-Hole podcast. I, of course, am your AAA-Hole Death Witch. And as always, is my co-host, Ozzy, and my other co-host, Phelan. My wife will also be joining us today. What has pissed off the AAA-Hole? What has the gaming industry done to piss me off? Well, you'll find out. We're going to start with Anthem. More specifically, this release chart for Anthem. And the fact that we need charts to buy video games now. So I'm going to throw the chart up on screen for those of you who are watching. For those of you who are listening, don't worry, I'll explain what it is that we're looking at here. All right, so throwing the chart up on screen. Now, as you can see here, it says ways to play Anthem. And everybody got to play the demo for free. We all know they did a free demo, but then they have two different dates for the release. There's February 15th and then there's February 22nd. Now, if you want to play on February 15th, apparently that is only available to people on PC who are subscribed to Origin Access, but the Premier version, not the basic version. So if you're subscribed to the Premier version on PC only, because the Origin Access is only on PC, the Premier version, then you get the full game on February 15th. If you're subscribed to Origin Access, the basic version, you can still play the game on February 15th, but you can only play the first 10 hours of the game on February 15th. And now if you bought the standard edition of the game, you bought it on console, or you bought the digital edition on PC, you bought the standard edition, then you have to wait until February 22nd to play with everybody else. There is no way to play it on February 15th on console. So if you want to play it early, you have to get it on PC, and you have to get it through the subscription service. So you can't even buy the game then. You have to then subscribe and basically pay $15 a month for the entire period of time you play the game. So basically, to play the game a week early, you have to subscribe on PC, and then you're left with two options after that week of either then buying the game at full price, which means you then paid $15 to pay it a week early, or treat the game like a subscription service and continue to play it for however long you're going to play it for $15 a month. You know, kind of like World of Warcraft has a subscription, etc. This is Anthem with a subscription. This is their way of trying to trick you into playing Anthem as a subscription-based game instead of as a solid purchase. So that's the general breakdown of how this works. And I bring this up because we've played the Anthem demo now, as opposed to last week when we didn't get the chance to. We've actually played it now. We can give our thoughts on the game, and I can tell you I was interested in buying the game, but on console, because on PC it is a much, much different experience. Somehow playing with a keyboard and mouse makes it a completely different game. The entire, I don't mean just the buttons and controls change, I mean the way things control change. Specifically, the flying is ruined for me when I play with a keyboard and mouse. I fly like drunken Iron Man in that game with a keyboard and mouse, but when I played it on PS4 and you put a controller in my hands, it controlled perfectly flying. I could fly like I was flying, you know, a ship in Star Fox. It was incredible. And I can't understand why they made this change. And then why they're, you know, if I wanted to get it on the 15th and decide I wanted to go ahead and start playing, $15 a month is a small price to pay for me to get started and, you know, see if it gets any better on day one. But then I have to play it on PC. So I'll either have to play on PC with a controller, or I'll have to get used to those very shitty controls for keyboard and mouse. I was wondering what y'all's thoughts were on the whole trying to trick you into a subscription thing, and more importantly, why don't they do this subscription on console? Because I would pay them $15 a month, because my wife actually liked the game, and she's interested in it. And of course, if she's interested in it, then that makes me more interested in it. I was vaguely interested, and I was going to wait for a sale, but you know, if she wants to play, this seems like a cheap way that we could both play. You know, pay the $15, but we have to do it on PC. Why is this not available on console?
As far as I understand, on PlayStation did not want EA access like Xbox did.
Because Xbox has it, but
Xbox's EA access is only like 15 titles, where on PC it's 180.
Yeah, so
you
from
get
my
with that
understanding,
subscription, so it's different.
yeah, so from my understanding, from looking at the chart here, the EA Access on Xbox One is the equivalent of EA Access Basic on PC. So you can play the game on console, on Xbox One only, on the 15th.
But only for 10 hours.
Only for 10 hours.
EA Basic on PC still has like 100 more titles than Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but as far as Anthem is concerned, EA Access on console is still the equivalent of the basic version. So there is no console equivalent of the Premier version, which would give you full access to the game on the 15th. And my question is, why? Why
I
aren't
don't
they...
know. Maybe they just think it's a better value on PC. That people might do it anyway to play all the other titles that they haven't played or want to play.
They're trying to railroad you into that PC because I was looking at the access thing the other day because there are quite a few titles in that I don't actually mind. However, the access basic is like $40 for the year, whereas the access prime is like $100 and something dollar.
Yeah,
$130. Yeah,
it's 100 in American, so that's a little more in Australian dollars.
So,
and I don't know what access on the Xbox actually costs.
From what I understand, it's the same price as basic, isn't it? I believe so. I mean, I don't have an Xbox, but I believe, and that's just from judging at the chart, that if it's offering the same thing basic offers on PC, I hope it's the same price as basic.
So yeah, I've just looked it up. It's $39.99. So it's basically about the same price.
Yeah, it's the basic
as
version.
The basic version.
Yeah, only you're still getting ripped off on console because from what Failing's telling me, the Xbox version of Access has about a third of the amount of games as the PC version.
mainly because a lot of those games don't exist in Xbox because they're PC games.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's a lot of
some of them
PC
you
games.
can't really do on the Xbox because of their controller mechanics.
So
things like Command and Conquer are on there. The Sims.
I'd say the reason that it exists the way it does on PC is it's their way of trying to get people into the Origin store. It's their way of trying to get you onto their launcher on PC. Because otherwise you have zero reason to download the launcher on PC. You know, if you're playing on console, then you have to go through, Xbox Live. You have to go through their channels to get their games, period. If you're playing on PC, you just have a ton more options. You know, you've got key shops, you've got all these other places. You don't have to go to them to buy the game. So this is their way of trying to get your money directly out of your hands and into their pocket and get you on the Origin launcher. And then, like I said, in the case of Anthem, it's also a way of trying to trick you into turning it into a true game as a service model game. Because if you're someone who's on the fence about Anthem and you find out that there's a way to play it before its official launch, you not only do you get to play it cheaper, but you get to play it a week early for only $15. There's probably a lot of people who would do that. And then when February 22nd rolls around and the game actually does launch, you're left with the choice of buying the game for $60, which means you've now spent $75 for the game because you wanted to play it a week early, or not spend that $60 and just say, oh, well, I'll just pay $15 a month, and when I get tired of paying for it, when I get tired of playing it, I'll cancel my subscription. But then if you play it for 6 months, you've ended up spending more than someone who bought it. So it's their way of trying to trick you into turning the game into a subscription-based service.
Yeah.
There is also the 10% discount if you subscribe to the EA Access that you would get towards your purchase. So
okay. So you save $6.
You get a little bit back.
Yeah, so you get a little bit back, but I mean, by the time you make up your mind that you're going to buy it, it could be 2 months in, and then you've spent $30 and saved $6. So you're saving money, but not really. It's one of those marketing gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, they're banking on people not wanting to shell out $60 at one time and thinking, oh, well, $15 is nothing. They're hoping that you'll do that thing where you subscribe and then you just get addicted to the game and then you just forget about your subscription. You just forget about buying the game entirely because you already have it. Yeah. And you just keep playing and ignore the subscription, put it on auto pay and just ignore it and keep playing. And then after you stop paying, or you stop playing the game, you know, you've gotten bored of it, or you've moved on to the next release or something, you've completely forgot you have Origin, and they just keep charging you, even after you've stopped using the service.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals.
Yeah.
So you could end up potentially
I don't mind that as a service, because there are quite a few really good games on there. However, if you're only going to pay it for Anthem, then it's better just to get the game on its own. If you're actually going to play all those other games, then getting the service would be the better option.
I would agree with you entirely.
However,
if it weren't for the sneaky bit of making it so that if you wanted to play the game early, you can only do so by the subscription service. Like,
that is scummy.
Yeah, even those people who pre-order and did pay full price for the game still have to wait or shell out an extra $15 for a month of access to play it.
I'm really surprised that the collector's edition one doesn't have that option. Well,
yeah.
At this point, I am not.
That blows my mind.
At this point, I am not, because why would it be a perk? That's $15.
Why wouldn't it be?
Well, no,
because they're trying to push people into that.
I'm saying
online service.
Okay. Think of it.
Expected that. But
think of it this way, Failing. They figure the people who are buying the collector's edition already have disposable incomes anyway. Those are people who are, not cheap. They're going to buy the most expensive version. They want the most stuff. So why would you give them something for free that you could also get them to pay money for? Because those same people who bought the collector's edition, and I guarantee you there will be players who will buy the collector's edition and buy a month of access just to play it early, and then cancel their subscription when the game launches and just switch over to their version of the game they bought. So now they've bought the collector's edition and spent $15. So now they've
think you misunderstood.
So now they squeezed just.
My question. It's okay.
Well, I get what you're saying. Is why wouldn't they include that as a perk? That's exactly why they wouldn't, because then they can't squeeze that little bit of extra out of you they can by charging extra for it. And they know that most people who buy the collector's edition want to play the game bad enough that they'll be willing to pay $15 above the collector's edition price to pay it a week early. And if they don't want to and they want to complain about it, all they have to do is fall back to that age-old, it's player choice. Those who don't want to play it early don't have to. It's your choice. Yeah, that's their excuse for charging you more, so that those people who bought the collector's edition will be like, no, I have to pay $15 to play it early. That's bullshit. And you go, we don't have to. It's your choice. You don't have to play it early. Yeah,
it's the same thing that comes with every thing within the gaming industry. They originally offered it as a perk to people that bought the collector's editions and all of those sort of things, those who pre-ordered. And then they found out they could actually charge you for it.
Yeah, so they took it away. I never considered it a perk to begin with, even when they first started doing this early access for pre-order stuff as a way to trick you into pre-ordering. That wasn't a perk for pre-ordering. That was a punishment for not pre-ordering. So those of us who wait for the game to come out, who wait for the review, who wait to find out is the game worth my money, those of us who do our research before spending our cash are now punished by being told, oh, well, we have to play it later than everybody else. Oh, you want to play it early, you got to buy it before the reviews come out. You got to pre-order it. You got to buy it before the game actually comes out. And then you can play it early. Because they don't want you to do your research. They don't want you to have an informed decision about spending your money. They are all about impulse buys. Spend now, spend now, spend now. Don't worry about what people say. Don't worry if the game's good or not. Just learn from experience. Buy now. Give us your money. All of it. And we'll give you the product later. I will give you $20 today for a hamburger on Tuesday.
It's increased price for scarcity. It's saying if you can afford to give us more money, we'll give you this thing that no one else is getting, and that'll make you special.
Yeah, it's that. It's the whole, feeling of entitlement and superiority thing that they play into by, those people who they've done it with pre-order bonuses, with cosmetics and stuff, by giving you something that you can put on your character that makes, and they're doing that with pre-orders here too. You'll get something you can put on your character that shows everybody else in the game that I got it early. You get to wear it like a little badge of honor and show off. And they play into that because, you know, people are gonna want to show off. You don't want to buy it early and then have everybody on your team not know you bought it early. Why would you do that? Everyone needs to know that you bought it early. And all games do that. It's not just Anthem at this point. Destiny did it. You know, Watch Dogs does it. You know, every Ubisoft game does it. Every EA game does it. Every Activision game does it. What?
People care about that?
Yes. People care a lot about that. People constantly want things that they got that shows they did something you didn't. Well, especially in a game.
But as long as we all have the same thing, why does it matter?
Because they have to have that feeling of superiority. That's why cosmetics are so popular in video games. Because, all right, if you've got two cosmetics in a video game, and I'll use Fortnite as an example. Back when Fortnite first introduced cosmetics as a sellable option, they had two different kinds of cosmetics. They had the ones you bought in the shop, and then the ones you could only get by accomplishing something in the game. The umbrella being the badge of honor in Fortnite. Originally, you could only get that umbrella by winning a game of Fortnite, by being the last player standing. So in order to have that umbrella, you had to have been number one in a game. You couldn't buy it in the shop. That's the only way to get it. More people wanted the umbrella than wanted the better looking cosmetic that they could just pay for. Because anybody can give you $5 for a cosmetic and wear it. But I get the umbrella because I'm better than you. Because I won. This is my badge of honor. This is my trophy. This is my proof that I was last man standing. You might look cooler, but I was last man standing. I'm better. That's always a selling point, especially in online games with a competitive mode or any kind of social aspect to it at all. Is they want something that shows that they want something that you can't have unless you get as good as they are. And getting good isn't opening your wallet and buying a cosmetic isn't getting good. That's just making a purchase.
It's not really something that you can't have without getting good. It's just I've got something that a lot of people don't.
Yeah, it's one of two things.
It's not really even a symbol about getting good. It's just a symbol of I've got something no one else has.
Yeah, so it boils down to one of two things. It's either the I'm better than you, so I've earned something you can't get because you can't do what I did, or the I'm a bigger fan of the game than you are, and here's my proof. Okay, I'm serious about this. You're not. Don't try to claim that you know more about the game. It's that show off thing where you prove that you're the super fan because you've got the thing. Yeah.
Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah, and it's all about attention, and it works on teenagers. I could care less about that. The only reason I'm even thinking about the EA Access thing is because A, it's a cheaper way to play the game. Even though it would be a subscription and I'm not actually buying the game, it is, a $15 way to play the game, and my wife's interested in it to give the full game a try. But I'm more interested in playing the game as soon as possible. Just because I want to play it. I don't care if I got 0 cosmetics with it. Just to tell me I gotta wait a week and then I have to start the game, and anybody I might want to play with who already bought it, who has access, would then be a week ahead of me. So now I'm playing catch up with my friends. Yeah, that's a big selling point to it. Is if your friends are getting it and they're getting it on access, well now you gotta get it on access, or you're gonna be joining in with your friends a fucking week late.
It's the release date is on the 15th. That is the release date of the game. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The game is released on the 15th. Anyone who doesn't buy the Prime Access, whatever they want to call it, is being forced to wait a week before they can play the game that has already been released.
Yeah, and in games like Anthem, just like in Destiny, anyone who's got a friend who does that you like to play Destiny with, who had to join late, knows that it's a chore waiting for your friend to catch up to you, that you get locked out of certain content when you play with that friend because you're waiting for them to catch up. So if you got this friend that you want to play with and you guys want to experience the content together, you both better have a subscription to Access. Because otherwise your friend's going to be a week ahead of you. And you're going to lock him out of content.
to basically quote the late great Total Biscuit.
Total Biscuit. Rest in peace.
If you start charging for something, if you start charging for your game, your product, it is no longer in early access, it is no longer a beta, it is no longer whatever. It is a product. You are charging, you are selling it. No matter what you put around it to say this isn't an actual full product, we're not actually selling this. You're charging for it, you're selling it.
Yep, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but at the end of the day, it's the same business transaction that takes place when you're buying a product. It is the exact same. There is no difference. You can call it whatever you want to call it. You can put whatever bells and whistles you want to put on it, but at the end of the day, the minute it becomes available, I mean, if you look up the definition of the word release date of that term, the minute it becomes available to the public, it has been released. That's not early access. Early access is like, we'll use movies as an example. When they do, a movie opening that's not open to the public, it's open to an elite group of people, such as reviewers and whatnot. That's not a release. That's reviewers getting early access to do their job. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, you're giving access to them to basically get their opinion and help promote the product.
Yeah.
You're not charging for that. You're basically paying them.
That's a promotion. That's early access. That's the difference between truly giving early access to something and just releasing it into the wild, releasing it to the public, where any Joe Schmo can hand you, X amount of dollars and then buy it and have access to it. At that point, the access isn't early. That's just when it went on sale.
That's not early access. That's access.
If it's released later because you bought it somewhere else, then that's at best, that's a timed exclusive. That's basically what it is. It's a timed exclusive for Origin Access members. It's still released on the 15th. It was just exclusive to them for that first week. It's a timed exclusive. It's the same as the whole Metro thing, which we'll segue into now, where, it's still going to be available on Steam, but it's on Epic Launcher for that first year. They aren't calling their release on Epic Launcher early access for Epic Launcher users. No, that's when the game came out. It was just exclusive to Epic Launcher for that first year. Maybe they would have had better press if they took a page from EA and called it early access for Epic Launcher users. Maybe they should have did that. Because the backlash from that has been just god-awful.
Yeah, I'll get into that when we start talking with that.
Oh, we can start talking about that now.
Okay. Firstly, my whole thing on that is I don't mind the idea of the exclusive to a system, service, whatever. If the money, if the people who are going to put out the product like Epic, Steam, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, if they're going to put down the cash to fund the product and their term is to get the first crack at it, that is fine. That helps the developers, that helps the industry, in my opinion. However, what I have a problem with Metro Exodus is that it was originally announced to be coming to Steam.
Yeah, just them doing a complete 180 with it.
And then they took it down because of this deal. If they were going to do the deal with Epic and have it early, that should have been on the books completely
on day one,
worked out before they even announced it. Before they even put it onto Steam and said, we're going to sell this. Here's where you pre-order. Here's where you buy.
All right, this is the same kind of thing that we'll get. And I know from experience, having worked at a GameStop, that this is the exact kind of thing that can A, either get you fired from your job, or B, get the cops called on you. If you're an employee at a GameStop and you do this, and I'll tell you what it is in a second. If you do this, it will get you fired on the spot. If you're a customer and you do this, you will be forced to leave the store, and if you don't leave, they will call the cops on you. So if someone's there trading in an Xbox, per se, and they're trading in that console, and the customer behind them in lines hears how much GameStop is offering them and says, hey, I'll pay you more to buy it from you right now. So that way the customer saves money. They're not buying from GameStop. And the person selling it makes more money because they're selling it for more to the other customer. If you do that, you'll be asked to leave. Can't do that in the store. You'll be asked to leave. That customer who was going to trade it in, is in the process of trading it into GameStop. He's making that sale, and then here's a higher offer from somebody else and goes, you know what, never mind, and then takes it back off the counter. That's essentially what Metro's done here, is they've already put it on the counter. They were selling it to Steam, and then Epic came behind them in line and went, you know what, we'll give you a little bit more if you come over here. And then they pulled it off the counter. After they'd already put it down and agreed to the sale, they then pulled it back and said, you know what, never mind. Yeah, that's generally frowned upon no matter where you go.
Or more, I would associate it with them putting it on the store of GameSpot or EB Games, as we call it in Australia.
Yeah.
And then taking it off, then the publisher coming in, taking it off the shelves and saying, we have an exclusive deal with Target.
Yeah, with Walmart or something.
Kmart.
And walking it down there, or wherever. Forcing them to take it off of their shelves.
That is completely, especially if it's been on there. I don't know when they actually put the.
I will say
what date they put it up on Steam, but it had, from what I'm.
But it already it doesn't matter what the day was, even if it was the day before. The point is, if it went up on Steam, it should have fucking stayed there, because if you gave people if you took people's money and you gave them the option and then took it away. Then,
no, they haven't taken away. They're still going to honor
what
they've already committed to.
Well, you've taken away the option
for anything else.
Yeah, well, you've taken away the option for other people to buy it. So, like, if I'd have bought it on Steam and I was talking my friend, you, into buying it on Steam so that we can play together, because we both have Steam and we're both on each other's friends list, and you went to buy it and it weren't there, that means that now you have to download a separate launcher, and I also then have to download that launcher so I can get you on my
and get it on another.
Yeah, and get it on another system in order to another launcher just to play it with you, because I can't invite you from Steam if you're now on the Epic version. So yeah,
this is a
essentially
problem
taking it
that
away.
Would possibly be fixed with cross-play functionality.
But it shouldn't be a problem.
It would be less of a problem, but it's still a problem.
But it's still a problem. Yeah, it still shouldn't happen. That being said, I do think it's shitty that everyone is like. I read the developers' retort to all of this, and how he's mad that everybody's basically shitting on his game that he spent, years of his life making, and they're letting a business decision ruin their outlook of the game itself. And he has a point. He's the developer. He doesn't make those decisions of how it's sold. That's done by the publisher. Like, his game didn't change because they changed where it was sold, but now people are hating on his work, on his art, because of a decision that the business... And I understand his frustration. His response wasn't the best well-written thing in the world. It was more of a knee-jerk kind of reaction, and he insulted people, but... I get his frustration because he worked hard and people loved his game, and now all of a sudden those same people who loved his game are calling it shit because of a decision that was out of his hands. And I think that everyone giving hate to the developer for this is pointing that hate in the wrong place. You need to point the hate at Deep Silver. You need to point the hate at the publisher, at the guys in suits who made the decision to be greedy. Yeah, that's where the hate should go. All of that being said, what do you think the reaction to this would have been if it had never come out on Steam, if it was just announced for the Epic launcher, and instead of calling it, an exclusive to the Epic launcher, they called it early access for Epic users? Because the Epic launcher has been home to early access stuff. Unreal Tournament, the Fortnite's technically still in early access, etc. So it would fit in. So if they had called it that,
I don't think there would have been an issue even if they had said it was a timed exclusive to the Epic launcher. If they had led with that, it's the fact that they already had it on Steam and they have pulled it off Steam is where the issue is.
Oh, I'll admit that's where the biggest issue is. The point I was making is how big a difference just naming something makes. Like if they had done it from day one on Epic Launcher as an exclusive, I think that still would have gotten some backlash. People, because that's never been done before, where a game that was originally on one, where the franchise was built on one launcher becomes a exclusive to a launcher that's not owned by them. That hadn't really been done before on PC, so I think there still would have been a backlash. However, if they'd have just simply changed the name of it from exclusive to early access, I don't think there would have been much backlash at all. I think people would have been like,
I still
cool.
think there would have been backlash.
Oh, I think there would have been some, but I don't think it would have been near as much as if they just called it an exclusive. Because an exclusive means full release of the game. Early access, the way most people think of early access, means, the game's not done yet. So they're beta testing it on the Epic Launcher. And I think that's how most people would have excused it and just wrote it off.
Most of the jocks would have looked at it that way. Most of the people who aren't really knowledgeable of the industry would have looked at it that way.
Which
those
sadly
who are
is a vast majority of the players. Most people they see early access and that's what they think. Most people. And you're right. There's going to be people like you, Jim Sterling's, like people like me and you, people who keep up with this and can see through the bullshit. But they're not the ones. But we're not the ones they're targeting. It's those other people who just see early access and go, oh, cool, I can I can play it a little early if I buy it here, and they're basically beta testing it here, and then I don't have to move to Steam if I don't want to. And then I think most people would have just wrote it off, and those who did complain would get a bunch of white knight defenders of the game going, dude, it's early access. Just like everyone who defends a beta by going, it's just a beta, bro. I think you would have had a lot of that, and that the backlash would have been just non-existent compared to what it is now. So you've got 3 levels of backlash. We're at the worst. We're at DEFCON 5. I think you'd have been at medium backlash if you just called it an exclusive from day one and never put it on Steam. And then you'd be at minimal backlash if you called it early access and never put it on Steam.
I don't even think there would have been any backlash if they had planned this whole thing out in advance and put it onto Epic Launcher initially and said we're going to have them. Oh, there would have been those people that everything should be on Steam, and
the backlash would have come from the fact that Epic Games Launcher has nothing to do with Metro. They didn't develop the game. They're not publishing the game. They have nothing to do with it. There would have been no backlash at all if Metro, if Deep Silver made their own launcher the way that, Ubisoft made its own launcher. So it publishes and launches its own games there. But with Epic still being a third party, then people would go, well, if I still have to download a third party one, why is it just not on Steam? That's a third party. What's the difference? Yeah, there still would have been a lot of confusion and a lot of backlash. Wouldn't be near as bad as it is, but it still would have been there. But if you called it early access, and the fact that the Epic Launcher was born out of early access games, people would have been a lot more forgiving, I think, and would have let it go. But it's just funny to me that just naming something different, giving you the exact same thing and just calling it something different. We can use the Anthem demo as another example. Had they called that demo a beta, they'd have gotten less backlash for the problems it had. But because you called it a demo, people took it as a demo, which means it's a version of the finalized product. It's not a test. This is what you're selling us. Whereas beta means test. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of games that are just demos that they call betas because they want an excuse for any bugs. People find it, they're using it as an excuse. It just shocks me that so many people can't see through the bullshit and take it for what it is.
Yeah, there is power in the name, and people have to be aware of that. But you also have to be aware of this is what the product is. This is what they're putting out. No matter what they call it, this is the product. And you have to judge the product on its merits. Not on what it could be, not on what they're saying it's going to be, what it is.
Well, see, I think the problem is, and I'm going to talk about the industry itself here, not like government type, but there's no regulation as to what you can and can't name something. You know, there's no set rules as to what constitutes a beta. So you can release a demo, you can release a game in an early state, you can call it a beta. You can release whatever you want and call it a beta if you want an excuse for having bugs in it. There's no set rules that says, okay, in order for your game to be considered a beta, it must meet these requirements. Or in order for it to be considered a full-fledged game, it must meet these requirements. And I've said this before about Steam's early access program on Steam, where you can release a game early, that there needs to be some kind of regulation that says, okay, in order to qualify as an early access game, it must be a workable game. Like, there's plenty on Steam that don't even work. They don't even have an executable file in them. You can download the game and not even run it. Like, that's the problem, is there's no standards set, like, at all across the board. And I think that if they had just, if they do that, if they release some kind of standards that says this qualifies as a beta, this qualifies as early access, this qualifies as a demo, this qualifies as a release, then you wouldn't have shit like Anthem releasing a game early and calling it early access, because early access would then be clearly defined as something, and Anthem's not that thing. So you would then have to call the February 15th the release date, and February 22nd either a late release of the game, or you would have to call the release on the 15th for Origin Access, which is what they would probably do. You'd have to call that an exclusive. You wouldn't be able to call it early access anymore, and that takes away that selling point. And all you have to do to fix so many of those problems is give definitions in writing, bound restrictions and standards to these terms that must be followed in order to qualify to release your game in early access on Steam, to release your game as a beta to the public. You can't just release this, this alpha version, or you can't release a 6-week-old demo of a game and call it a beta, and then change nothing after the beta before the game comes out as a way to promote the game. Because that's all betas are used for now, is promotion. They aren't used for bug testing anymore.
For testing. No.
Which is what they're supposed to be.
They just call it beta, as you said, just to have an excuse for why there's bugs. Because if they put out betas basically weeks before the initial release, that's when it's probably gone gold and gone to be either put onto physical disc or anything like that. If you're going to be doing a proper beta, that should be months, even a year in advance.
Yeah, I think it would also stop what Epic Games is doing with Fortnite. Because at this point, we should not still be calling Fortnite an early access game. You should call it what it is. At this point, it's a live service. It's a live game service. Because just as you said, there's a physical version. There are physical versions of Fortnite that you can buy. You can walk into Walmart right now and see them on the shelf. You can buy a physical version of Fortnite for PS4. There's even a Fortnite Switch bundle. So you can buy an entire system to play this early access game on and get a physical copy of it. At that point, it's no longer an early access game. You're just fucking selling the game. So,
as we said before, once you start charging for it, it's no longer in beta. It's no longer an access. It's a full release.
Yeah, this is
you charge the money, you call it what it is.
And Fortnite is a full release game at this point. You need to take that early access tag off of it. And I'd be fine if they actually gave the term live service an actual standard in itself. And Fortnite could be that gold standard for live service.
Live service, ongoing development,
subscription,
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It just so happens that the subscription for Fortnite is free and all purchases are optional. But, World of Warcraft being the classic example of a subscription-based game, there could be lots of those. But the problem is by making those standards, then these companies have to properly call their games what they are, and you would change the entire business model for some of these companies.
You have to call it what it is and take responsibility for what that term comes with, and stop relying on this, it's just early access, or it's just beta, so we don't have to work on the bugs at the moment.
Yeah, and then you end up in a situation where you're Bethesda and all of your games have the same bugs in them for 10, 12 years, and you just never fix them because, well, it's a full game now, so people know what they're buying. Because that's the attitude that Bethesda has is, well, at this point you know it's there, and we've been selling the game forever, so why fix it? It's not like the game's still in development. So by putting those restrictions in place, by putting those standards in place to tell people that you have to be this thing, then you'd fix a lot of that bullcrap. I think at this point the industry's become a lot like the government itself in that it doesn't matter what would fix the industry, it matters where the money's at. Just like with the government, we can't pass certain laws because people would lobby government. They'll basically buy them off and pay them not to pass that law. And I think that these big publishers do the same thing. I think they pay the ratings board and stuff to maybe change the rules on what a teen-based game is so we can make this one T for teen. Or maybe change this a little bit so that, maybe look the other way on this one. That kind of stuff goes on. Of course it does. It's shitty, but, it happens. So speaking of live services, what do you think of Xbox Live coming to Nintendo Switch? Because that's happening, apparently. They're working on it. It's in talks to have... So Xbox's plan here is to have Xbox Live on everything. Not just Xbox, but they want Xbox to be a true live service. And from what I understand, and it's all still very early in talks, there's no telling what it could actually become or if it could actually happen. But from the way I understand it, is they want your Xbox Live to be your one-stop shop for everything. So you go to the Xbox store, you go to Xbox Live, and let's say you were going to buy Anthem. You could then buy Anthem from Xbox. So Xbox gets money for that sale and then be able to play Anthem just like you do with Fortnite anywhere. So if you bought it once, play it anywhere. Now, you have to do so through their servers, but you buy it once, and then you can download the game on PS4, download the game on PC, download the game on your Xbox. If it's available on Switch, download it on Switch. It doesn't matter. As long as you're signed into Xbox Live, you can download that game on any of those systems for free and play it with your Xbox friends.
They want Xbox Live to basically become Steam.
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't say it's a bad idea. I kind of like the idea of there being...
I like it as well.
Of there being one marketplace for all of your consoles, which would then make the importance of console exclusives even more important. So that consoles, I think it's a great move for Xbox because they struggle with exclusives. So now they don't have to worry with exclusives anymore. They're making their money off the marketplace. So then your systems like Nintendo, your systems like Sony, like the PlayStation, they have to make their money and keep their crowd by selling their exclusives, by making better exclusives. Nintendo's got exclusives in the bag. PlayStation's got good exclusives, but there aren't enough of them. And I think this will make them have to double down on their exclusives and really, turn Sony into Nintendo, where they do yearly exclusives, 2 or 3 a year. And then that gets people wanting to play on PlayStation. And then all your other games you can buy through the Xbox marketplace. And if Xbox did a thing like Steam does, where it shares that revenue with whatever other system, for instance, if I bought Anthem and then I wanted to download it on the PlayStation, in order to download it on the PlayStation, Xbox had to give PlayStation a cut of my sale, whatever. I don't care how they handle it behind closed doors, as long as I don't get charged twice. Yeah. I think that would be great.
Of course, it's never going to be on the PlayStation. PlayStation has shown that they will take this rivalry to the grave.
And that's exactly where it'll end up going if this takes off. Now, PlayStation does fold. They folded during the PS3 era because the script was flipped during the PS3 era. When Xbox 360 was reigning supreme and PlayStation was struggling, PlayStation was the one that was all about cross-platform. PlayStation was the one that had your cross-platform games, like Final Fantasy, where you could play with people on PC and etc. And the Xbox was the one that was all, no, Xbox Live is a closed experience. Now we're in the opposite, where PlayStation's ruling the marketplace, and Xbox is struggling to keep up.
The problem you have with that is this would replace the online service. So that would replace PlayStation Live for the most part, because the only way to actually play with your other friends with all the thing would be to pay for the Xbox Live service, which would compete with the PlayStation's one.
Yeah, which brought me to wondering, all right, like if you bought the game through the Xbox Marketplace and Xbox was on PS4, then in order to play the game on PS4, would you then also have a subscription to PlayStation Plus? So if you're playing on PlayStation, you have to pay for 2 subscriptions?
No, it would. That wouldn't be sustainable. They wouldn't be able to get away with that. It would be. That's why I'm saying it would never come to PlayStation, because they would lose their
I'm
service,
thinking the same way I'm thinking the same way for Nintendo. Does that mean you'd still have to buy a subscription to Nintendo in order to play your game online, even if you're going through Xbox? Even if you're playing it through the Xbox? I mean, we don't know. It could be that way. We don't know.
It could be that way, but I'm saying it would not be sustainable for any of them. So,
because what I'm trying to think here is, if Xbox is trying to drive all the traffic to its own marketplace as your place to buy the game, which I love, because I absolutely hate that right now. I hate that when a game like Anthem comes out, I'm stuck where my wife loves playing it, but she prefers to play with the controller, so it's better for her to play on a PlayStation or something like that. I always hated having to decide, all right, sweetie, do we want to buy this game on PC or do we want to buy it on PlayStation? You know, like, we have to decide where we want to buy the game, and then that might lock us out of playing with you. But if we buy it on this other one, it might lock us out of playing with Phelan. So I'm constantly having to decide where's the best place to buy the game. I like the idea of being able to just buy it and just having it and being able to play it wherever. The problem with that is...
our problem.
Well, yeah,
I was going to say it's basically our problem with Diablo. Yeah.
But that still brings me to the point of, I'm trying to think of the best way that, like, if Xbox was really going to do this and it was going to be successful, they'd have to have a way to share that revenue with Nintendo or with Sony or with what other platform they're on. Otherwise, they're just taking business away from that platform, and there's no benefit for the other platform. And if there's no benefit for the other platform, then you would have a situation where if you were on a Switch, you had to pay for Switch Online and you had to pay for Xbox Online in order to play your Xbox games. And their excuse behind that would be, well, you don't have to play those Xbox games on Switch, but if you want to, that's a separate service. We don't control that. You know, they would basically do the it's out of our hands thing and blame it on Xbox. Xbox would do the it's out of our hands thing and blame it on Nintendo. Each company would point the finger at the other one, and you never really get anywhere. The same thing happened with when Netflix first launched on Xbox Live. Netflix wasn't willing to share any of that revenue with Xbox for people signing on and watching Netflix through Xbox, and a lot of people were. So in order to watch Netflix on Xbox when it first launched on 360, you had to have a subscription to Xbox Live and a subscription to Netflix. So if you were watching Netflix on Xbox, you had to pay for 2 subscriptions. And it was that way for a really long time.
And how did that eventually work out?
The only way it changed was not because of backlash from users, because they had backlash it was that way for over a year. And they got backlash for that entire year. The only reason it changed was because Netflix agreed to basically pay the subscription for Xbox Live for everybody. They paid a fee to Microsoft to have their app on their console. So basically, Netflix had to give Xbox a cut of the users who are signing into their service to use another service. And I think that would be the only way that Xbox would work, is it would have to pay some kind of fee or royalty to Nintendo in order to have their service put on their system. Because you're right, it's not going to fly with people paying twice for the same thing just because they chose to play it. It then turns into feeling like a punishment. Because I had to watch Netflix on my Xbox for the longest time when it first launched, because when it first launched, I didn't have a smart television. Smartphones weren't really a thing yet. They hadn't caught on. So my only way to watch Netflix when it first became a thing was on Xbox. And because I had an Xbox and didn't have a PS3, I had to pay extra where, you know, my friend with the PS3 didn't. That's the only reason I knew about it, was because when I went over to my friend's house and he's playing on PS3, there was no subscription for PlayStation to play online at all. So he only had to pay for Netflix. To whereas when when I wanted to do it, I had to pay for Xbox Live Gold subscription and a subscription to Netflix. And it stayed that way for a long time. It wasn't until Netflix agreed to give them a cut that things changed. And I think that that's the only way that this works. For what it's worth, I hope Xbox pulls it off. And I hope that that's the way that it works. I hope Xbox, because if anybody has the company, if any company has the money to pull this off and make it happen, it's Xbox. It's Microsoft. They got the fucking money. They've got the money to pay those royalties to get this thing off the ground. If you can get them to quit paying money for stupid shit they're not going to use like Mixer, and fucking pay for a good idea, stop building Zunes and shit and do, Windows phones and do something smart for once, this would be it. Build a marketplace that people can access from anywhere and play their game from anywhere through your service. You will quadruple the amount of Xbox Live subscribers that you currently have and your user base. Because I know a ton of people who would definitely buy the game on Xbox instead of on PlayStation, instead of on Nintendo Store, instead of even on Steam, if it meant that, well, if I buy it on Xbox, I can also download it on my PS4. You can't do that on Steam. You can in-home stream it to a TV, but you can't download it to a PS4. You can't download it to an Xbox One. You can't. The ability to buy a game once and have it on whatever console or system you own is amazing. I don't know anybody who wouldn't jump on board that. So Microsoft absolutely should be given a piece of that pie to whatever system they're putting their app on. Be it PlayStation, Nintendo, mobile, whatever. Because I think it would be great to and it would solidify cross-platform as a thing.
Oh yeah. So not just cross-platform, cross-account.
Yeah, it would make cross-platform a fucking standard, because that would mean that I could pay for Anthem on Xbox Live, and I don't even own an Xbox. I could just pay for it on Xbox Live through their website, through their Windows Store front, wherever, and then I could download it on PC and play on PC with, say, you had it on PC or Phelan had it on PC, or you had it on PC because you don't have a PS4. I could play it with you on PC, and then when my wife wants to play, I can log out of PC, fire it up on my PS4, and we can play on PS4 so she can have her console controls and have her easier experience. And I wouldn't have to pay anything extra. I'd still have access to my same friends list. I'd still get the achievements for every game I played, all achievements for your whole life. I know people who would care about that. That alone, being able to have, hey, any game I play, no matter what system it's on, I get achievements on my profile to prove I played it. Hell yeah. I know people who would just pay for that.
Cross-account is going to be the platform of the future. That is not a speculation. That is a certainty.
Yeah, it's an inevitability.
The question is, who is going to be the one to lead us into that future? Because whoever comes out with the cross-account system first is going to be the dominant force going forward.
Well, Xbox and Epic Games both had the right idea with it. The problem is Epic Games is doing it one game at a time and, trying to do it through their launcher, whereas Xbox is trying to do it as an entire service. So it doesn't matter what game you buy. So they both have a solid idea and a solid chance. The reason I say Epic's probably leading in that is not just because they have pulled it off so well with Fortnite and they've proved that they can do it, but because of the fact that they're taking everything they've learned from Fortnite, and instead of charging people for it, they're trying to charge developers and save that wealth. They're not trying to nickel and dime the consumer. They're trying to not only share that wealth with the world so that other games are able to do it, but they're going to make their money off other games instead of off the players. It's a fucking genius move. To basically say that we'll handle the account stuff for you. You just make your game and pay us a fee, and we'll make sure that your game is cross-platform, that people can log in anywhere and play with their friends, so just like they can with Fortnite. That's a fucking genius move. To sell that as a service to other developers instead of to users. So that's the difference between Xbox and Epic. Is Xbox is trying to sell it to you as a gamer, to you as a marketplace, and Epic is trying to sell it to other developers and get it going that way. It's going to be interesting to see which one actually takes off. But those two, one of those two is gonna make it happen. One of those two business models is going to work. I like them both. I can tell you what's not going to work. Having the closed-minded, oh, our stuff is our own and people should buy our stuff, that selfish mentality that Sony has, that is not going to work. That's not going to get you very far, as they learned with Fortnite. They had to fold on Fortnite, then recently they folded with Rocket League, so to say that it's never going to happen on PlayStation, I won't, because when the pressure's put on PlayStation and they start losing money, they yield. They're a little more stubborn than most, but they do yield. And now that it's become a trend and it's happened more than once, I expect it to keep happening more and more. Because once you break the ice there and you get that ball rolling, it's just going to keep rolling. They're not going to be able to stop it now. People are coming to expect it.
It's becoming the gold standard.
Yeah, so eventually they're going to have to change their business plan or they're going to lose customers. That's the bottom line of it. All right, so we'll go in and take some viewer comments for those of you watching. For those of you who do want to get in live on the comments, become part of the podcast. If you're listening to the recording of this, we do this podcast every Monday night. We record it live Monday nights at around midnight. So follow me on Twitter to see when it goes. But around midnight Eastern, the podcast goes live. We record it live, and we do take your comments live. If you can't make the live recording and you want to get your comments read, which I'm checking my email now, you can send an email to deathwitch@gmail.com or at me on Twitter, and I'll check for those comments and I'll try to read them live. If you're not able to make it though, this podcast does go available for download or on YouTube if you want to watch the video version and see all the graphics that I Googled because I didn't make it myself. You can see that Wednesday mornings is when that goes live. So Black Spire says it's all very interesting, and he's curious to see which one would win too. I'm checking my email now to see what we got there as far as anonymous comments goes on the email here.
Yeah, we're trying to make this professional, so he'll be starting to do this in the future.
Yeah, so I got an anonymous comment from a user from the email that says, how would you feel about, instead of Xbox being cross-platform, Xbox working with Nintendo and Sony and just making an all-in-one console itself? That's also cross-platform with PC.
That's what we've commented on the past and before, of either Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony actually dropping out of the market and just focusing on games, while the other one or other ones actually make the console, and we have this singularity, but with the different games coming out.
So what he's saying here is basically like a deal where, they don't necessarily drop out; they just all work together. So kind of like the whole Marvel Sony deal, where Sony didn't give up the rights to Spider-Man; they just shared it. So Xbox wouldn't be the one making the consoles; they'd all go in together on it, and they'd all have to agree on specs and how the console would work, and they'd all have to go joint on a service. So you'd basically be paying 3 companies instead of 1 for your console, but you'd have it all in one place. I don't know how I feel about that as an idea, as opposed to just a virtual marketplace that spans multiple consoles. Pike says Xbox is sort of doing that by fusing with the PC market, but Steam and Microsoft are still very, very separate. Well, that's the thing, is I don't think people want everything in one place to that extent. I mean, having a marketplace where you can buy everything in one place is great, but I think exclusives still are important, and that having separate consoles is still important because they each have their own perks. And anytime you bundle everything into one and you take options away from people, you end up with less options in the future. You end up with less innovation. Anytime you take away that element of competition, you end up with less.
At that point, you may as well be creating a PC.
Yeah, basically. And the only reason I ever suggested that Nintendo drop out of the gaming market, I don't think all consoles should drop out. I think there should still be that one major rivalry, because that's the way it's always typically been. I mean, back in the day, it was, Nintendo or Sega. It was always just one big rivalry. Yeah, Atari had a system, but nobody gave a shit about it. It was Nintendo or Sega. That was what the kids argued about on the playground. you know, and then it was PlayStation or Nintendo 64, and then it was PlayStation or Xbox, you know. So there's always been the one big one, and then the bench warmer. Nintendo traditionally here lately has been the bench warmer. They're making a bit of a comeback with the Switch, but they're still not going to compete with PlayStation and Xbox because the Switch just doesn't have the specs. You can't play Anthem on it, you know, like you're not going to play Destiny 2 on it, you know, like it's not going to replace one of those consoles. And that's what Nintendo consoles are second consoles. They're never the replacement. And for that reason is the reason I said, well, maybe Nintendo should drop out. I mean, if you're going to be the bench warmer, you're just wasting money at this point. Why not make your games for those big boys like Sega did, and you'd make a ton more money, especially since they're hit or miss with their consoles.
Feed that market that the other two aren't filling, which is the handheld. Make that your main focus.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was fine with them making handhelds, but as far as home-based consoles, I thought they should stop making those, and then make their big, you know, high-def version of games, their big, you know, home console versions of games for other consoles, and then have a separate handheld like a 3DS that they can do to just dominate the handheld market. They could have the best of both worlds if they really want it, but because of their pride, they never will. But having the three work together to make one console, I think that would be a bad idea. Because A, you would lose your exclusives. People like Sony wouldn't have the incentive to make another God of War, to take the risk on that. Nintendo would obviously still make their games because they know that they're going to sell. But Sony wouldn't make another God of War. That's a large endeavor for them that costs a lot of money. And
God of War, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it's only made for the purpose of selling their console. Now that they don't have a console to sell, then they're just going to focus on, you know, working on their service, working on their other stuff, working on their servers, their service, their features, the reason why you want to, you know, play with your... They would basically be working with Microsoft to find ways to just work on that console and to get people playing on that console instead of a PC. So then you would have the rivalry would just turn into console or PC. It wouldn't be which console, it'd just be the one console or your PC. And with cross-platform, it almost wouldn't matter. So you'd be effectively taking all competition out of the market. So I don't think that would be a good idea. I think I like the idea of having one marketplace that spans them all, as long as Xbox pulls it off right and shares the revenue there. Because third-party games would then be, you know, bam, this is your place to get third-party games. And then it would give Sony a reason to make more first-party games, Nintendo a reason to just double down on their first-party games. So it would be, okay, you want to play an Ubisoft game, you want to play an EA game, you want to play a third-party game, you get it through the Xbox store. You want to play God of War, you want to play Horizon, Zero Dawn, Detroit Become Human, etc. Then you got to get a PlayStation for that. You want to play your games on the go, you want to play the Mario, you want to play the Zelda, well, now you got to get a Switch. The good news is if you got that, you can still play your Xbox games on it, though. It would just be a win-win, I feel. It would be a win for consumers because exclusives would get better for those other systems. Yeah, you'd see less exclusives on Xbox, but let's be honest, Xbox doesn't really have any at this point. They've just kind of fallen off the exclusives in general. So you're not missing much.
Yeah, Anthem was supposed to be Xbox exclusive when it was announced.
And they launched that. Halo's kind of just fallen off. No one gives a shit about Forza. Gears of War has gone down the tube. And they haven't really had an exclusive that they've announced that anyone's given a shit about in a while. Pike says, yeah, having a game market with the console-specific Sony market and Microsoft market exclusive to each console versions of the floor. Yeah, like you could do that too. You could have the game market that spanned all the consoles and then having a section on a section of that market that you can only see on each console that's exclusive to that console. So that would work too. But then you're right back where you started with, you know, having to decide. I don't know, that also sounds like it kind of defeats the purpose, because then what if Anthem were to become an exclusive? Then I'm stuck right back in the boat of, oh, well, did I buy the right console? Because now I got to go buy this one if I want to play Anthem. And Anthem's a third-party game. You know, the whole idea behind this market is that, oh, if I want to play Anthem, I buy it once on the Xbox Marketplace, and I can play it with Ozzy on PC, and then when I'm done, I can pop over to my PlayStation 4 and play it one more way. When I'm done there, I can pop over to my Switch or wherever else it's available, and I can jump back and forth basically and still play with the same people. So I can play where I want. And that's their idea behind it. They tried this once with games for Windows Live and it didn't work, but this is their trying to do it again. Their whole game anywhere thing, as they call it, with the Xbox Marketplace on PC. Because they already do that with PC. If I buy a game on PC through the Windows Marketplace, if I had an Xbox, I could also then play that game on Xbox. I'm basically buying it on both when I buy an Xbox game. Because I did that with Gears of War 4. Yeah, the console-specific market would have to be for first-party games only. Oh, yeah, no, I totally agree. Because there has to be some exclusives out there for competition. No, I totally agree. There should be... like, PlayStation should still have its PlayStation Store, but it should be separate from this. Like, this should be your third-party market, and then you'd have your first-party market on each console. Nintendo would still have its eShop. PlayStation would still have its PlayStation Store. And if Xbox really wanted, they could still have their exclusives. It's fine. Whatever. I just see this as a really good idea. And especially if I only have to pay one subscription to play online no matter what console I play on. Dude, done. Just done. But I think that'll do it. That'll do it for this episode of the AAA-Hole podcast. As usual, we're just pissed off about industry bullshit and just the way that Anthem just... it pisses me off because it has potential. My wife likes it. I actually don't hate it. After playing it on console, I saw the potential in it. It needs a lot of work on PC, but there's a good game under there. It's just I'm tired of peeling back 8 layers of bullshit to get to it. So, if you want to know how you can stop it, dear listener or viewer, stop pre-ordering. Stop buying into the bullshit. Stop buying super deluxe ultimate editions. Just buy the standard edition a week after it launches so you've had time to read the reviews. And let them know that you care about the quality of the game more than how they're selling it to you. You care more about the quality than playing it early. You care more about the quality of the game than whatever bonus bullshit they're going to shovel into it. And you care about the value for your dollar. That's how you can do your part to help. And if everybody did that, the entire fucking industry would change. But, I'm just one guy with a couple co-hosts screaming into a void, I guess. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the void. We'll see you guys next week. Say goodnight, everybody.
See you guys.
See you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.